You're watching the Tesla Live with your host, Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Live number 309, the last day of May 2023, the 31st. So, yeah, can you believe May's gone, guys? Like, that's incredibly fast this year. Things are just getting faster and faster. Man. But we're enjoying our weather here today, 30 degrees Celsius, sunshine, nothing but sunshine. So, with that, over to the co-host, Mr. Casey Green joins us from South Carolina area. How are you today, sir?
Doing all right. It was a long day job day, but we're off
Doesn't
now.
sound too pleasant.
At least until tonight's reports, anyway. As you can see, I'm starting to relocate the network equipment, the servers, and everything. I'm gonna put them back behind the sound barrier.
Very good, very good.
Yes.
What's the temp in South Carolina today?
It is down to 78 now that the sun is setting, and in this room, it is down to 76.
94.
It was 80 all day.
Very good, very good. On the West Coast, Mr. Patrick Connor joins us as well. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Hello, Tesla Nation. So this is usually the part of the show where I brag about all this kilowatts raining down from the sky. But guess what? I no longer have Tesla solar panels on my roof. Oh no! What? What's happening?
His roof looks like a porcupine. It's got studs coming out of it.
Yes, yeah, they leave the little mounting pucks on there when they take the panels off. So if you've listened to previous episodes, you know that I'm getting a new roof. And so we had it scheduled for, I don't know, a couple weeks from now. And Tesla called and said, hey, we've got an opening. Do you want us to come out and do it early? And I kind of didn't want to because I want the solar panels to be on there as long as possible. But we also had it scheduled so that like solar panels came off one day and the roofer started the next day. And that's kind of cutting it a little close. And so I didn't want to have the job delayed or whatever. So we said, sure, come on out and do the removal. So now I've got a big stack of solar panels on my patio, sitting on a pallet instead of on my roof making energy.
And they collect a lot less energy when they're all stacked together like that on a single pallet, don't they?
Yeah, only the top one really gets the sun.
Two things about that, though. They are easier to clean when they're at human height.
Yes.
And also you forget how big they are. They're human sized.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we had panels installed in 2007 and then more in 2011. And just during that time, you can see the difference in size. Panels grew during those 4 years quite a bit. And why? Because then it just allows you to put them on faster. Instead of putting on 20 panels to cover an area, you could do the same area with 15 panels.
Yeah. It makes sense. Less amount of roof space has to be used, less racking, and less time to get them in place. So
exactly,
absolutely.
Well, hey, Fred in the chat, welcome. Yeah.
Hello to those in the chat room. Fred, Eric, My Tesla. We've got who else joined us? JT's Eric. in the house. We got Bussin' Boy. Welcome everybody. Glad you're here with us.
Yeah, they caught that we were a couple seconds late starting today.
Yeah. You're saying I'm here at 7. Where's everybody else?
We were telling some funny jokes.
We were.
Very good, very good. Well, let's lead with the number one story, I would say, of this week for sure. And that, of course, is what Casey's got for us today.
Yes. So, it wasn't really this is something we've been predicting for a while now, but it was a surprise move. Again, it wasn't really a surprise. What it was it caught us off guard because we didn't expect it to be this automaker, and we didn't expect it to be this soon. Ford, their Jim Farley, he got on Twitter Spaces with Elon and had a much better technical experience than the Floridian guy did. And Mr. Farley announced that Ford is joining NACS. So next year,
yes,
they're going to have an adapter for everybody who has a car now, like a CCS Ford. And you'll be able to use your CCS Ford on the Supercharger network at 12,000 stations. And people were speculating, well, why 12,000? That's a weird number. Are you excluding the busy stations? Blah, blah, blah. Some folks did a cross-reference, and it looks like that just happens to be the number of V3 stations that are available today. And
oh, so you think the V3s are the only ones that will work with this adapter, not V2s?
that's all they promised.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
They said V3s.
So how many, if you don't know off the top of your head, do you know how many total there are in the US today? Or is this
like 20,000?
Okay, so about half, just roughly.
About half.
Okay.
And then next model year, so the 2025 model year, NACS will be native on Fords. So you'll be able to pull right up to a Tesla destination charger or supercharger, just jack it right in there, which probably also means they're going to change the location of the charge port, because unless they're assuming that V4 is going to deploy like gangbusters, they need to actually be able to reach the supercharger cables. So
yeah,
that means they're going to have to shift.
Yeah, they're a little shorter, a little closer to the front of the forward fender would make sense, so they can,
and the opposite fender as well.
All those presence chargers.
Yeah, or they can do the front right fender, or they can do the just like Tesla did and do the rear left tail light. The other thing that we're not really sure is there will be the availability for every Ford to get the adapter. What we're not sure is if it's free, if it's automatic, if you have to request it, or if you pay, how much it will be. And then there are folks who are lamenting their choice of CCS1, saying that, oh well, now that Ford has done this, is leaving others out to dry. What are we supposed to do? Well, buy an adapter. But they do have a point in that that they bought into this because it was the standard, and now there definitely will be less stations going forward. But when it comes time the station gets vandalized or it's time for a refit, are they just going to swap the cable for a NACS cable? And then like if you look at Electrify America today, right now, if you look at any site, you got one CHAdeMO cable and the rest are CCS. Is that going to be the future for CCS? And for those people, they were complaining, like, where does that leave us? What do we do? Obviously, if you're of an automaker that joins NACS, you just ensure that they make an adapter. But
right
at this point, it's just really a matter of you jumped into the VHS Betamax Laserdisc debacle, and
right. Someone's going to win and someone's going to lose, and if you were not on NACS, you lost. And maybe I'm making a prediction here, but I think you said it well, that we have been talking about this. In fact, I just pulled up, I first wrote an article about it in 2017. It's why Tesla's charging network should be everybody's. And then after we talked about it on this show in 2022, I reposted that article and with some updates saying that Tesla's making progress toward this, just changing it from the Tesla connector to NACS. The writing was on the wall. Yeah. And if you look at the networks that are out there, which one has the most spots? Tesla. Which one is the most reliable? Tesla. Which one has the actual most data and response where customers have needs? Tesla. So everybody who's in the EV world knows who John Volker is. He was the editor of Green Car Reports. And when Tesla made the NACS announcement, I responded and said something like, this is the harbinger for what's going to come in the industry and it's going to happen. And he argued with me and said, we already have a standard. This is ridiculous. And he
was more skeptical, yes.
we have a standard in name only. If you look at all the factors I just listed, number of spots, reliability, it's Tesla. And yes, you might not like Musk for certain reasons, but don't ignore the objective facts here. And so John's a lot smarter than me. I just want to say I won this one argument.
The other thing to look at here is assuming that Tesla doesn't lock this down, which Elon already said they don't want a charging mode, maybe, is that the V3 superchargers, they speak power line, or can speak power line. They don't actually speak power. They can speak power line, and that is what CCS speaks. And as Monroe and several other folks, including Tesla, if you read their design docs, and it was like, again, the design docs are 15 pages or less, including pictures, large pictures. They are compatible electrically and communications. So there could be an industry of like aftermarket or third-party shops swapping out CCS ports for NACS ports. So they're not left out in the cold, except for they might not have all the superchargers because the V2 and V1s that are left out there, they still speak not Powerline, they still speak CAN bus.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about retrofit. We obviously adapters were mentioned in that release, but retrofit is an interesting angle.
That's why my car needed the retrofit, because as a legacy car, it only spoke
CAN bus.
CAN bus, and that's what the CHAdeMO speaks. Is it speaks of a different flavor of CAN bus. So Tesla just kind of translated inside their adapter, and I was surprised to see that it still works. Like a lot of people have told me, oh, because you put the translation board in there, it's going to stop working with CHAdeMO. It still works. And I got 40 kilowatts, which was incredible because it only ever got 35 to 38 before. And then I took the CCS and it was working too. So, and then
this is part of being an early adopter. All the things are not, haven't shaken out yet, and I knew this was going to happen with the Leaf when I bought it. CHAdeMO is what was on there, and what was being deployed in the U.S. So the nice thing about that was the West Coast Electric Highway at that time was all CHAdeMO. So when I was driving that was the de facto standard around here. But the writing was on the wall there that CCS was going to replace it. And I think now the Aria has CCS and not CHAdeMO. So Nissan has moved just in time for this to happen to them. And so
now do you think
will be okay? Well, first question for everybody is: do you think the rest of the industry, at least in North America, will follow Ford and move to NACS?
The answer for me would be yes. The question is who's next.
That was going to be part two. So part one is will they? Will the entire industry move?
I think that we'll get a few more, but we won't get everybody. Although I was wrong on the Ford prediction, I was surprised that Ford moved in such a decisive way, I have to say.
Right, not just adapters. They're like, we're changing the port.
Right. And you can't go halfway. I mean, going halfway is what's killing the legacy auto. They're trying to live in both worlds and milk profit off of one and still have dealerships, and they're not going all the way. So this is one thing that's great. Pour one out for CHAdeMO.
And Farley admitted in the conversation, the back and forth with Elon, he's like, this was designed by committee. And Elon pointed out that in Europe, they couldn't even add a second port like they do in China. And on my show Sunday, I went ahead and showed a reminder of what the ports in China look like. We got Type 2, AC only. And then you've got the GMB, the Chinese port, which is also their DC charger. That was not legal in Europe.
Right. So let's I'll do part 2A and B. Who do you think will be next, and who do you think will, if any, will be a holdout?
I see GM being a holdout because they just put a couple $2 billion into a charging network to push CCS and put CCS. And then you've also got Electrify America. So the ownership of that, the Badge Group, VAG, Volkswagen Auto Group, they will probably hold out last unless they just put an NACS cable on their existing network. But they might see that as helping out their competitors, because now it's not just Tesla, it's also Ford and whoever else jumps on board. So it's like, do you really want to help them out? It's a certain point where they'll be hurting themselves not to. They'll be missing out on business. So I could see them at least adding the cables to the station. I don't know if they'll add it to their car. And then you've got it's going to be interesting to watch and see how it goes. I think the Japanese might be before the Volkswagen, but not necessarily before any other Germans.
I'm going to say Stellantis comes on board next.
I think they're first, because they have nothing out there right now.
Because they got nothing. All they've got is a concept car. That's it. So it'll be easy for them to switch. And I think, as Casey thinks, I think GM's going to be a bit of a holdout. I think they've invested too much, and
that's just like kind of a sunk cost fallacy. But I see Mary doing that.
Yeah. So now a couple of go ahead, Patrick.
I was just going to say my Tesla weekend in the comments had said the industry kind of has to. So Tesla has an incredible network. It's been one of their moats. So the obvious question is, why would they open that up to a competitor like Ford? And I think the answer, if you know Tesla, is pretty obvious, because their mission isn't to be to dominate the industry and destroy everyone. It's to move the world to EVs. And if that means making it easier for someone to buy a non-Tesla EV and them supporting that, then that's what they're going to do. So
it's kind of how they started. They were a supplier.
Yeah, they have done that to when times were tough to get through a scrape and get investments, and so I now, if you are considering an EV and say you don't want to buy a Tesla for some reason, you could buy a Toyota or a GM that does not have the NACS connector, or you could buy a Ford that does.
And then to level the playing field, they're all the same equipment, options, style, class, price.
Right. Yes. And like you said, Casey, some of the other charging networks are going, now that NACS is an open standard, they're going to install NACS. So even if you really hated Tesla and didn't even want to use their charging network, there are going to be options for that. So I don't see how any company can stand on the sidelines. The CCS network in North America is just not good enough, and I think this is the next domino to fall, and CCS will go the way of CHAdeMO, to where it's just on life support, and then eventually gone completely when there are enough adapters.
I will say though, Patrick, is that even if the third-party companies put the NACS adapter onto their units, that's not the problem with those units.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah,
the problem is unreliability.
Right.
That is not the issue. They put a NACS plug on it, it's still going to behave in the same way. It's not reliable.
Well, but at least now they have the customer still showing up in front of their station, so they have an 80 to 92% chance of making some money.
Well, there's all the other things that play into it. Is it working? Is it busy?
That 80 to 92 is their reliability rating. It's not strong.
Is the maintenance there? All that stuff is the problem. It's not that the adapter doesn't fit typically.
Correct. Yeah.
Right, so but if it doesn't fit your car, you're not going to show up at all. So
yeah,
so they're going to want that.
Here's how it would play out if you have. You say you didn't want to use Tesla's network. You're going to go to some third-party network that says they have a NACS connector. You're going to get there and you're going to find it blocked, broken, or just vandalized, or the cable's gone completely. And then you're going to drive to the nearest Tesla Supercharger to get charged up and continue on.
Yeah. And we saw a couple of weeks ago where the new CEO, the current vice president of Electrify America, he did a round trip, cross-country trip to headquarters from California and back. And he only documented the out trip, and he had to call for frozen screens at least 2 times. He had other cases where it wouldn't start.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to make it, but he had the real customer experience where it wasn't 100% uptime, or even close to it. And when I went to do I made a video that I haven't edited yet, showing the current state of the Tesla CHAdeMO and a retrofitted CCS vehicle. And it was a 20-minute wait for me to even do my little 1-minute charges on each connector at a station with 8 connectors, 4 units, and 1 handle was completely offline. It didn't let you pick it, no matter what.
Here's what I found compelling about this news is that Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, was in a CNBC interview shortly after this announcement was made. Yeah. And he was being questioned about why this move, why change from what you were doing. And he went through this little story about he and his family on a road trip in a Ford vehicle, and his kids would say, "Hey, can we stop here and charge? Look, it's one of these new Tesla chargers. It's got the convenience store. It's got everything right." And he said, "No, kids, we can't charge here. We have to go around to the back of this other abandoned building to plug into one of 4 chargers." And he lived the experience going from place to place, not not someone that gets out in their parking lot, takes a EV for a spin around the block and comes back and say it's fine. This guy actually tried a cross-region charge experiment. And he found out what we've known all along, is that if these things are not the right place, one, they're not reliable, they're not available, they're vandalized, there's no maintenance, and on top of it, they're not in very good locations. A lot of them are. They're behind buildings. They're kind of out of sight. Doesn't give you the feeling of security when there's no lights. When these things are in, places that few people go by, you'd much rather have it in front of a Wawa or somewhere else that it's just out in plain sight with lights everywhere.
Open bathroom and some fresh food.
Exactly. All those things where Tesla excels. And Farley just started to click in with them as he's on this trip, going, these guys have it all right now. And what we've paired up with is the substandard. And I believe, Farley said, he believes that his customers need the best experience in order to switch. And if they screw that up and provide a sub-charging experience, they're going to have a hard time selling EVs. So the guy got it right. He got it completely right because he lived the experience.
Yeah, right. He was driving an EV. That's what made the difference. Because if you just look at reports and go, oh, yeah, this is the standard and they're being built out, we'll be fine. You might not know that, right? You have to actually get behind the wheel of an EV, make that your daily driver, use that for the family vacations like he did, and then it becomes so obvious.
Yeah, somebody had pointed out how none of these other competitors had driven a Tesla, and they didn't understand what they were looking at. And we went so far as to point out that they hadn't even driven and charged and paid out of pocket their own cars, just in the regional circle. Like, they get them, they're already charged up. You need to charge it at home, you need to charge it at work, see how much it's going to charge you, and then you need to actually go on a trip. And they hadn't even done any of that with their own cars, let alone to figure out why it was so much easier in a Tesla. And some of them still don't get it.
Yeah.
But Farley and the guy at Electrify America, they've now seen it firsthand.
Yeah, and then Farley, to his credit, realized their mistake and said, we've got to correct this now. We have wasted some money, but we've got to correct it now. And that's going to help Ford. It definitely will help Ford. The other thing about the moat that Patrick mentioned about Tesla having this walled garden or a moat, which is charging, he's correct. This is not their mission is to put everybody else out of business, but it is their mission to push EV forward so everyone can get into them. But I find it interesting that once you're in a Ford, you come to a Tesla charger, you're staring at the word Tesla for the whole time you're there, and you're watching other Teslas zip in and out charging faster than your car, most likely. And your second car choice may be a Tesla because of that.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if Farley might sell Ford Model E to Tesla.
For a lot of money. I don't think Tesla's interested anymore.
No, probably not.
Yeah. But well, let's move on to the next story this week, and it's kind of tied to this. A day after the Ford announcement, the government of Canada. Go ahead.
Real quick before we move on. Somebody was going over a presentation on LinkedIn about this, and they noticed. I guess they were paying for the premium. They noticed that they had more people from GM than any other company on their talk about NACS than anybody else from Tesla, Ford, or any of the other companies.
I'm kind of curious what the boardroom discussion at Ford was like.
It was probably like the what was that movie scene where everybody likes to take the clips with Hitler just throwing a fit.
So the government of Canada made an announcement after the Ford announcement the next day, and that was that they were going to be teaming up with Tesla to provide up to 750 chargers in Canada to allow all EVs to charge at those locations. So this is news as well. In Canada, we currently have about 200 and I believe it's 5 or 6 supercharger sites with an average of 6 to 8 at a site. So up to 750 of these actual chargers is a sizable amount of the superchargers that are here. Not they're certainly concentrating on the Trans-Canada Highway from east to west, and they said that this is going to start happening as of next year, and the first area they're going to be concentrating on is basically between Ottawa, Ontario, and Calgary, Alberta, which is, of course, a low amount of population. And for people to be able to traverse the country, they certainly want reliable charging every so often. And that's most likely what the thought is to do this first, is to make sure the network is strong from east to west or west to east. And that's great news for Canadians too.
Is this Magic Dock or something else?
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, do they use the Magic Dock on V3? I can see, but on all those V2 stations out there, are they going to dual head them like they used to do in Europe, where you had the Type 2 and the
what it was going to be, so that there's no other details. I imagine that. Well, actually, we're kind of surprised that we haven't seen many V4s start to show up, because, of course, they have the longer cables. We've only seen that one in Europe. None others have appeared yet. So, of course, that one in Europe is testing, but you would think that they would start rolling out some more of those. Or maybe the new chargers they put out are just going to have a little bit longer cables, or maybe some cable adjustment, like replacing the cables with new cables that are a little bit longer is going to be required as well. Could be a number of things that happen to make this actually work.
And there's nothing stopping them from putting a longer cable than this on a supercharger. If you look at,
it's a little longer, but okay, yeah, I get your point.
If you look at some of the service stations, service centers, and not all of them, some of them have urban superchargers with the regular.
There you go.
Regular cable on them, but some of them have just the cabinet, and then they have like a good 3, 4, 5 meter cable. It's not bad.
Yeah. In other brand new news, we've got the indications that some Model Ys are now showing up with hardware for cameras, at least. Yes. This was spotted in Fremont, California, at a few of the Tesla delivery centers, where actual photos were taken of the new cameras, and you can tell them they're a little bit bigger than the other cameras, the diameter of the camera. And I think they have a little bit of a different sheen to them. It seems that in all the photos, they have got like a red color attached to the inside of the camera somehow.
I thought that was just in the photos. I was like, do you got to take a picture of it to find out? No, you can see that with your bare eyes. I was like, oh, this is just like the photos. The other easy way to tell is on the side repeaters. They have a shorter lens on the light there for the turn signals.
Yeah, and of course, what I was curious to see is, does it have a front camera on the Model Y? And no, it does not. There is no bumper camera on the front of the Y, as we've seen on the Cybertruck. So
is the dummy camera on the far passenger side.
Yep. Yeah. And why they went through the throes for that is
must have had a lot of camera shrouds left over.
it's unusual, but it could be a future enhancement, maybe.
Oh, maybe they're going to go back to 3, perhaps.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
it's not like they haven't done any binocular housings before, because before hardware 2.5, well, hardware 2 came out, there were a number of Model X's with 2 openings for binocular cameras, and then they went with 3 instead.
Yeah, so interesting that they're starting to roll out. Haven't seen anything in a Model 3 yet, strictly Model Ys at this point. But of course, as we will hear more about Project Highland in this broadcast, maybe it's going to be associated with that. Why bother changing the Model 3 when you know that it's about to be updated? Could be a Highland thing.
I'm feeling that Model 3 is like done until Highland comes out, like unless it's next to free, or if it's a logistics situation like you guys getting the Chinese packs up there in the land of the north. I don't see them actually putting too much effort into Model 3 hardware until they switch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Next, Casey, could you share this photo for us? The inside of the Cybertruck.
Yeah. Let's take
And
that.
this photo was shared. I think it was kind of officially leaked. This was no somebody leaning in and taking a picture or got into the cab and took a picture.
This was found on Twitter.
And you can tell by the two German painted cars up front that this is definitely at the last Giga Texas event for Shareholder Day. And a few new things in here we can see is the cover is closed on the center column first. That's got some cup holders underneath there that we've seen previously. We've never seen the lid actually closed. And of course,
that lid. It looks like the tonneau cover. So that's
it does.
A cool little detail. Yeah.
And then of course the big news is the steering wheel has somewhat changed as well. Little bit of a modification to the yoke.
Yeah. I also just now noticed that this is floating right here.
I really think that calling it the woke is funny. It's a part
especially because it pisses off Elon.
It's a woke.
He likes to troll people. Control him.
Yeah. The Cybertruck got woke. That's hilarious. And then, of course, we have to, now that they have this tonneau cover over the cabinet there, or the storage compartment, we can call that the little cyber vault.
The mini vault.
The big vault and the mini vault.
The mini vault.
This also addresses the one complaint I had with the yacht floor on my Model S, is that, you had all of this open space and like these little bitty cup holders right up here, and that was it. Like there was no console area. And so now it's got a console and a place for my wife to put her purse.
Yeah. Yeah, you could throw a bag there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of worries me is the dash looks like it's Alcantara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a dust magnet.
That is a problem in a work truck, let me tell you.
Yeah.
That is probably not the right choice of materials for a truck.
At least it's dark.
But is it cheaper to make Alcantara or just a massive fake speaker grill like they do on S and X? And if so, why the change?
Well, and this could be just that, this is a test vehicle of sorts, and it's easy to take off and work on things underneath there, and they put it back on when it's being displayed. But this may not be the final, but I don't think material on such a large dash in a truck is going to be advantageous for people who own it. It's like Patrick said, it's going to be a dust magnet, and I hate to think of, if you've got something splashing around, it's going to stain it. I just don't think it's a good idea. And of course the full warmth of the sun baking on it all the time. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, the Alcantara, of course, was roof liner or side liners. The sun wasn't on it constantly. So this is going to be a difference for that material. But again, this is too early to tell. I got to believe that Tesla knows this. This just may be a prototype.
Yeah.
Right. It is early. Things will change. Making that the same as the seat material would not be that hard for them.
I don't think putting it the same as the seat material up there is smart either. We've seen what happened with cars with leather and fake leather dashes in years past. I mean, yes, we have cabin overheat protection, but you still also have the option to turn it off, and it's only good for 12 hours. So I think it would be a bad idea to make it fake leather up there, or real leather, or any sort of non-hard surface. Like if they make that paper thing extend up, but make it dark instead of white, because that much white reflecting in the sun will not be good. And
I assume the gap between them is the vent system, like the 3.
It looks like the vent system.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Whatever the white material is, they could do the same stuff up top, maybe.
Yeah, but in something that won't catch the sun. I also really hope they put the binnacle display like we saw on a few of the prototypes up there. It's like the one more thing surprise, because.
Oh, I didn't know any of them had the binnacle. I missed that one.
A handful of them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is going to be Elon's daily driver, and this is going to be kind of like last above the Y. I'd kind of like to see them use that screen and bring it back, because you don't need the yoke or the woke or anything other than a round wheel if you're not having to look over it or through it.
And of course, maybe there will be a round wheel option too. That's a
Probably.
possibility.
Oh,
They eventually step that back on the S and the X. Who knows?
Yeah. Speaking of wheel, notice that on the screen
I
here,
doubt
you've got your wipers, you got your microphone, you've got, for some reason, what looks like a phone, and then you've got your cruise control or autopilot. There's no horn button over here on the right or on the left.
Hopefully the
Is there gonna be a
center is the
press?
horn.
Yeah.
Return to center horn.
That would be smart.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. So
Or just a little blurb in the manual. Palm one or the other or both sides to get a horn.
right. I
That's
hope
the
they
fashion.
make this an option on the S and X, or actually all their vehicles. If they go
Yes.
stockless on the other vehicles, I like this. I still haven't tried the yoke, but I'm
Love my yoke.
yeah, but would you prefer a woke?
No, actually.
No. Oh, okay. All right. You're a yoke all the way, huh? The yoke's on you. Okay.
I like my Tesla Weekends comment. The best horn is no horn.
Just whenever the car hears me swearing at people.
That's right.
It's beeping on its own.
Get out of the way!
Yeah, it switches to microphone and speaker. It just blows your voice outside the vehicle when you hit the horn.
Yes.
Oh, don't do that during a school zone.
It's just as bad in a school zone. All the people just ignoring the sign while you're just trawling away at 20 miles an hour.
I just meant I don't want the children's hearing the words.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. The 4-letter bleep words. Yes.
Now with intelligent honk.
Oh, man. Very good. Very good. So well, certainly time's growing short. We know it's going to be this year it's going to be third quarter sometime. So
yeah,
the clock is ticking. Can't wait to start seeing these video game vehicles out on the road in the real world. Going to be fun to see. Patrick's got our next story about some power that you get for free.
That is right. If you are in Texas, then Tesla has a special incentive that only you qualify for. So, as we know, end of quarter, they often have specials to entice people. And this one is interesting because it comes with, if you buy a Model 3 between May 26th and June 30th, and you sign up with Tesla Electric, then you can enroll into the Tesla Home Charging Plan. And then guess what? You get free charging of your Model 3 at your house for an entire year. And what's better than free charging? This is really cool because it uses a lot of the Tesla infrastructure together. So on my app now, I can go in and I can look and see how my solar's doing. I can look and see the state of my batteries. I can have the car charge or not. But I don't have a setting that allows me to say, if my power walls are full and I'm getting sunlight, send it to the car instead of the grid. But that kind of thing is coming. And this is just one example of that. If you're using Tesla as your electricity provider, they can run specials like this. They can have a deal like this. And so I just thought this was cool and something that was worth sharing and talking about.
Yeah. Again, we heard about the utility offering another option if you were with Tesla, which a little while ago, which I believe was unlimited charging for $1 a day. Basically, it was $30 a month. So this is even cheaper. You get it for free, But it's a bonus that Tesla's running the electricity grid. If you've got solar, you've got a power wall, you've got those other options that can be built in, where it's selling and buying with auto bidder. All these things are coming to a really great combined package that you can own. Right. And lots of benefits for those people. Besides living in Texas, it's a great way. It's a great way to get involved with this and cover all your needs under one manufacturer who is all connected with your app, with your car. All of it's there. So that's going to be tough to beat.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a comment here. I think we're unlikely to see vehicle to grid until LFP is more common. Those can handle wear a lot better. Yeah, we made the same discussion way back when. Who was it at Dalhousie University?
Jeff Dunn.
Jeff Dunn. Yeah, when he was working on the Million Mile battery, we said, oh, as soon as the Million Mile battery is a thing, then that's well exceeds the lifespan of a vehicle. So you can afford to have those extra cycles doing other cool stuff with your pack. And yeah, LFP gets you definitely a step in that direction.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Next, let's talk a little bit about world domination. We've got the Model Y that has now, in the first quarter of 2023, become the biggest seller in all of the world for any car. Sold the most units, jumped to the #1 position on the chart above 4 other Toyotas to claim the first position. And first time ever this has happened for Tesla. And of course, only a short, 2.5, 3 years ago, we heard from Elon on the stage of the lackluster Model Y introduction that he believed that the Model Y would outsell all Tesla vehicles and would become a world leader. And that happened this quarter. Now, of course, that's only one quarter, but it is looking, based on the projections of sales for this year, that Model Y will remain in the #1 position and most likely end the year with the title of the car that has sold the most units in a full year. So congratulations to Tesla and their team, because this is an achievement that none of us really thought would come this quickly. We heard about what would come. We heard about the predictions. But man, it's tough to believe if you go back 5 years at the beginning launch of the Model 3, when we were sitting talking about how successful this car could be, to imagine that an electric car 5 years later would be at the top of the charts would be hard for any of us just to accept. But yet it has come to pass.
Yes, it is awesome. And it was kind of interesting how, I don't know what was going on with Musk's mood the night of the Model Y reveal, but I mean, he said exactly the words you just said, where he's talking about how it's going to be Tesla's best-selling vehicle. It's going to outsell even gas cars. But he had this like, and there it is, whatever kind of attitude.
It was blue and it was in the corner in the shadow.
It's like they didn't even have the lights aimed at the car properly because it was in the dark, and it's like a dark horse, right? But absolutely correct. Like it's amazing. The car has taken off, and of course Tesla had moved things in a certain way. They moved some of their own chess pieces to make sure that the Model Y was going to be successful. They tried not to constrain its battery pack, and I believe that the Model 3 was kind of put on hold so that the Model Y could use those battery packs. I believe that that is something that was part of the play all along, because they knew that this was the volume car. This was the one that was making them all their money. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it. So
that's why it was the first to get the heat pumps. It was the first to get the castings. They focused all of that effort on making the Y lower cost, higher quality, higher volume, because of exactly what you just said. They saw the numbers, and this is the vehicle that people wanted. This style is much more popular in a lot of regions.
Exactly. So
yeah. And one point from the chat there is that it has been the revenue leader for a while. Now it's also the volume leader, and it's doing it with higher margins than the other vehicles in that top category.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we look for more success this year, and hopefully it can end in the #1 position. It looks like it will, and my hope is it will. So we shall see. Casey's got our next story, off to Shanghai. What's going on there?
So, just like Fremont, Giga Shanghai has had a little bit of a pause on Model 3 production. And speculation is that that's telling us that the Project Highland is imminent. And that's exciting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Where there's smoke, there could be fire.
Hey. Don't accuse Tesla of being
Smoke, fire, and batteries. You don't want to mix them.
right. And before the show, Mark was telling me about about how some of the folks are speculating that that they're going to demonstrate Project Highland in Shanghai to Elon while he's over there in China. And if that's the case, that means this thing is imminent, like maybe next month.
And that's kind of interesting. It rolls into our next story because we were talking last week about Model 3 getting some discounts on inventory cars in the United States. Well, a few days later, that program's been expanded to Canada. So we are now providing a discount of $2,300 plus on a vehicle that is inventory for Model 3. So if you have interest in getting a Model 3, this may be the time to act because, as we mentioned last week, we don't believe these discounts are going to be required past another 2 weeks or so because they go through that many vehicles that quickly. So this will be short-lived on inventory cars. If you're sitting on that fence, it's time to decide to get off that fence.
And in that same vein, they also did something they rarely do and have a lease special right now. So if you lease an inventory Model 3, there's additional money on the table for you as well. The one thing we keep saying constantly is if you like what you see now and it's in budget, go ahead and get it versus waiting for something to come up later. I'm not saying that if you are interested in what's coming up next, not to do it, but if you like what's out there now, there's a possibility, especially given the cost cutting that they've been priming us for, that you might not like the new one. Worst case is if you can kind of time it so your delivery of the new one, if your new one happens at the same time that the new ones are coming out, so you can pick. That's even better. You don't always get that choice, but something to look into.
Yeah, Tesla has in the past tried to get rid of almost everything they had before the new model came out. So I got to believe that they're going to be doing that the same way. You may not have the choice of being able to look at Peter or Paul. You may only have one choice. So make up your mind early because that decision time is counting down right now.
Right. Yeah. Like maybe the next one will be stockless and you hate that. So get one now.
Right. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. It's just not saying you might like the old one better.
Exactly.
Or you like the new one better. Like there's a reason Mark goes out to his car every week. He's got a calendar reminder. Go play with the lumbar support on the passenger.
There's a reason.
Wow, Canadians love lumbar support.
Canadians, one Canadian, Lee Kitchener, for some reason.
Right. We noticed that not only did we take it out of the new cars, that you still weren't using it, so we took it away from, you turned your button off.
King of the lumbar passenger supports. Exactly. Next, Casey already touched on this, but
I'm not talking about the Bolt.
But Elon, of course, has made a trip to China. This is his first trip in 2 years, and he's there visiting a whole bunch of officials. He's visiting with Shanghai officials, other government officials of the province, the country, and apparently he's going to be visiting Giga Shanghai. And as Casey mentioned, there is a rumor that Project Highland is there and will be presented to him at that location, which would be sometime this evening because China is like a little bit more than half a day ahead of us. So it will be interesting to see how the coverage is, if we get to see some of this or if there's some reporting on it. If you are not already subscribed to our Twitter feed at the Tesla Life or our Facebook feed, the Tesla Life #1, get subscribed there because we follow all Tesla news throughout the week, and you can be notified immediately when these events happen. So keeping our eye on that, and it will be interesting to see what Elon either provides to us or doesn't provide to us. Next story, it's all about tires. Tires. EVs, of course, if you're not familiar with them, not just Teslas, but all EVs are a little bit harder on tires than regular cars. And in the Tesla category, they're probably the hardest on tires out of all EVs because it's just so darn fun to press that lightning pedal and jump into a quick start, as Casey well knows, because he's the one that termed the lightning pedal as opposed to the acceleration pedal. But it's something that, of course, you need to keep an eye on if you own an EV, because you want to know if those tires are wearing. You want to be able to rotate those tires so you get even wear across them. Here in the Great White North, obviously, I've got about 4 to 4.5 months of the year where I have to switch to winter tires. So I'm doing a rotation at least twice a year to keep track of my tires. And I've seen the tread wear go down dramatically on my rear-wheel drive vehicle compared to the front tires. So it definitely does happen. And it's a little bit shocking when you're not used to it, but it's something to keep your eye on. Well, Tesla is updating their program in order to alert drivers about where their tire maintenance maybe should be. This is not a definite, but they're now going to be tracking the mileage that these tires have seen on their present wheel, and they're going to be reporting back within the software that maybe it's time for a rotation, or for you to examine the tread on these tires based on them seeing that you haven't changed the tire or updated the wheel in any form for some time. So it's something that probably won't affect me too much, because I am switching them at least twice a year. But others that maybe are in a climate like where Casey is in South Carolina, it may not come to mind as quickly that you should be rotating or you should be checking. But this software update will allow everyone to be alerted as Tesla tracks the mileage and gets that owner to maybe do a few extra checks a year just to make sure that the tread wear is looking good and is even.
Yeah. On my Model S, it was a 90D, so it was all-wheel drive, but it went through rear tires more than the front tires. On my Model X, they're a little more. They've only gone out in pairs or in sets so far, but I did have that blowout at the beginning of last month where the inners had suddenly wore out. Like, I was checking them and keeping on top of them, and they still, in a matter of 2 trips, were gone.
Yeah, well, towing, of course.
The towing too, yes.
Is another thing that's going to wear your tire.
Terrible roads.
Yeah.
Bad combination, towing and bad roads.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the car, it was paying attention. But if this software was in there, assuming legacy cars can run it, they probably would have alerted me before the tire pressure was saying, "Hey, your belts are out."
Yeah, so that's the news of the week. Man, hey guys, we got to this in under an hour, and I thought it was going to take a lot longer than that. But
weeks in a row.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to see that we got the important news out. There was other stories to pick from, but we did want to spend some time on that Ford story, which was quite significant.
Yeah, that's an impact to the entire industry, and we've talked about how Tesla has dragged the entire industry kicking and screaming in some cases to EVs, and this is going to be yet another example of that. This is what it takes to make EVs successful. It has to be easy to use. It has to be convenient. You have to be able to just plug it in and walk away and let it do its thing. Not have some app and you have to tap and you have to scan a QR code and you have to have a cell signal. No, this is just going to work. And so this is what's needed.
Yeah.
And just the cable is so much easier to handle.
Yeah.
I mean, the CHAdeMO cable was ridiculous, and CCS is still not as good as Tesla's.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry you didn't want to rehash the topic, but
going back to our first story of the evening,
it's cheaper to install and maintain and build, and it's just
Monroe had a good breakdown to compare behind the port what does CCS look like versus Tesla. One of them has CCS has you need 3 high voltage cables, not just with Tesla you need 2. And and with the Tesla they use aluminum bars versus flexible copper, and there was just so many advantages that Tesla has that of course Ford is going to use all of those. And then there was the discussion about will there be 2 ports, and the answer is no.
Farley confirmed that as well.
Yeah, because otherwise you lose all the advantages that moving to NACS gives you. Because then you would have to have not just 2 or 3, you'd have to have 5 of these cables, and that's just not going to happen.
Another interesting piece that we forgot to mention was that those actual conversion, those adapters for the current Fords, they're going to be made by Tesla. Tesla is the one that's making them. So it's going to be compatible for the Fords right out of the box, because the group that actually makes the superchargers is making the adapter for the vehicle.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, so they're already making the Magic Dock. Now they just need to flip it around.
Right. Tesla already pointed out that the NACS connector can handle bidirectional charging and vehicle to X. I wonder if this will be their first time with it in a production product, because they can't remove the Ford Pro Power, the home backup feature on the Ford Lightning.
Right.
That's true.
So,
they cannot.
Yeah. So by 2025, they're going to have to support that, at least in the Lightning. So that'll be the Tesla connector doing that. So that's interesting.
Could be an easy switch for Tesla then to allow it to happen in their more robust LFP batteries, possibly.
Yeah,
I expect that with
they
CyberTruck.
constantly, CyberTruck too, and they constantly point out that they did have it in the Roadster, but they didn't want you to use it, so they didn't turn on the software.
So there's a good question: will it be there on day one of the CyberTruck?
Interesting.
Yeah, put that out as a polar question. Maybe closer into Q3 sometime. But
yeah,
because it would literally be the only EV pickup with power offloading that doesn't do it through the charge port. It would be doing it through the 1450 in the bed. If that would be the only EV pickup where you have to go to the bed to get the power.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's roll into shoutouts. Patrick, what have you got for us this week?
Well, I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at OEVA, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. Go check that out. And I have a post coming up, of course, about this NACS change and how the entire industry is going to go. And I kind of wanted to have this discussion first and inform that. So it's going to be coming soon. And then
we'll be ready for Sunday.
I don't know. Do you? If you, there's a deadline for me. Thanks, Casey. Yes. Otherwise, I might just slack off and do other stuff.
Yeah, maybe you can come on and talk about it too.
Yes. Sunday is I do whatever my wife says. So if she doesn't have an agenda for me, then I'll be there.
Hopping on her gun.
There was no way I was going to go on Mother's Day. That just wasn't happening.
No. Oh, look, and Tesla Weekend is just north of Portland, just north of where Patrick is.
Cool.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Nice. So,
Casey, any shout-outs from you this week?
Of course. I look forward to seeing as many of you wish to come on Sunday at 1:10 Eastern over at youtube.com at Casey Green. That's KACEYGREEN. We talk a lot about Tesla and green life, green living, and then we all go home.
Awesome.
Very good. Yeah. Very good. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up on this video. Press and subscribe. It helps us out. Doesn't cost you a dime. We'd really appreciate it. And with that, we will get together next week and find out what's happening in the Tesla life.
Say what's happening on Tesla life. Patrick knows.
It's a future free from fossil fuels.
Oh, we got it in. Just
we're electrifying all the things.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our gigawatt hour.